Hi, John Farrell with the Farrell Law Firm, and today we're going to be talking about what the benefits are to a revocable living trust. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We put out new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and make sure you hit the like button. Everyone helps. All right, again, my name is John Farrell with the Farrell Law Firm. To tell you a little bit about myself, I am the author of Estate Planning for the Modern Family, and I've recently been voted one of the top 3 lawyers here in Cobb County, Georgia, along with the law firm being voted one of the top 3 law firms here in Cobb County, Georgia. Well, today we're going to be talking about the benefits to a revocable living trust. You know, at one time, revocable living trusts were the type of thing that people thought that only the wealthy had. But these days, people are using revocable living trusts to do a variety of different things. And for most people, when it comes to estate planning, the 2 vehicles that they choose from are called the last will and testament and the revocable living trust. Those are the 2 primary estate planning vehicles that people choose from. Well, there are advantages to wills, and we'll put out another video that talk about some of the advantages to the wills. But today we're going to talk about some of the advantages to the revocable living trust. The idea behind the revocable living trust is that if you pass away with things in your name, they are typically frozen until they go through the probate process, and they are unfrozen by the probate judge. Well, the idea behind the revocable living trust is that you take the assets out of your name, put them into the trust name. That way they're not frozen after you pass away. So here are some of the benefits to having a revocable living trust over a last will and testament. The number one benefit to having a revocable living trust is easily avoiding probate. The probate process is the process of the court reviewing your will, or if you died without a will, and making sure that whatever you put into the will gets carried out. The executor is who they say they are. They get appointed by the court, and that the will's a valid will. They make sure that the notice gets filed in the paper, that all the beneficiaries are paid. This is a lengthy process and oftentimes can be very costly. Here in Georgia, the average probate case takes about a year. And for you, that could mean that your family has to go through probate for longer than a year trying to distribute out the inheritance that they should receive after you've passed away. Well, typically, oftentimes within a couple of weeks or a month, the assets that are inside your revocable living trust are distributed out following your passing. This is much quicker compared to the probate process that most people have to go through. Again, the probate process is that process that family members have to go through if you pass away with just a last will and testament, and it's quite a lengthy process. So the benefit to the revocable living trust, the primary benefit to the revocable living trust, is that it avoids that entire probate process altogether. Now, the second benefit to a revocable living trust is that it's a private document. It doesn't get filed down at the courthouse like your last will and testament will. Once your last will and testament gets filed down at the courthouse, which is typically just a short time after you've passed away, that becomes part of the public record. That used to not be a big deal before the internet, because if someone wanted to see your will, they would just have to drive down to the courthouse, find a place to park, go see the clerk, ask for the file, and then see your last will and testament there. But with the advent of the internet, all of these things are online. In fact, I go every day and look at wills that we are associated with. We also do probate here, so we help people go through that probate process. We're often on the court's website looking at those wills because they're part of the public record. The great thing about the trust is it doesn't get filed, so nobody has to know what you have or who's getting it. So that's a huge benefit to some people. So the first benefit, avoiding probate, and the second benefit is the privacy aspect of having a revocable living trust. Now, the third benefit to having a revocable living trust is that your family simply gets their inheritance quicker. Because they are avoiding probate to begin with and all the things that go along with that, they can receive their inheritance quicker. Now, a person will step into your shoes once you pass away with a revocable living trust. That person is called a successor trustee. On the will side, this person would be called an executor, but on the trust side, they are called a successor trustee. So when you pass away, they have the authority to step in your shoes and distribute out the assets according to the instructions left in the trust. Now, this typically will be a week or two, maybe a month when that happens, but for all intents and purposes, the moment you pass away, your successor trustee could step in and prepare a deed to transfer the property out and start giving assets to your family, just like you would want to with your last will and testament. They just don't have to get the authority from the judge to do it. So it ends up being much quicker for your family to receive their inheritance if you have a trust over a will. Now, one of the benefits to a revocable living trust is that it is very flexible and you have a lot of control over your assets. Some people think, well, if I put my assets into a trust, then am I going to lose control over those assets? No, you are the trustee of your revocable living trust while you're alive. So you can do whatever you want to with the assets that you put inside the trust. You can sell what's inside the trust. You can buy more things and put it into the trust. You can donate what's inside the trust, manage what's inside the trust. This control and flexibility allows you to adapt over time as your family and the law changes. So this control and flexibility is very nice for people. Remember, the will has no effect until after you've already passed away. That's when the will gets filed down at the courthouse and becomes effective. Until then, it really has no power to help you do much because it just doesn't go into effect until after you've passed away. Now, that's the fourth thing, benefit to the revocable living trust. I have a hard time saying that, don't I? Maybe I should just say trust. So the fifth benefit to having a trust is that it allows you to do incapacity planning. That's just in case you become incapacitated or disabled later on in life. It will allow your successor trustee to step into your shoes and manage your affairs. If you remember, a will does not go into effect until after you've already passed away. So if you become disabled or incapacitated, it won't help you at all. But by putting your assets into this trust, we will often put language inside the trust that says, if you become incapacitated, your successor trustee can step in your shoes and manage your financial affairs for you. Now, if you only had a last will and testament, if you become incapacitated, it will be a nightmare for your family to do simple things for you. Now, we will often do powers of attorney and advance directives for people. I call them disability documents. They're there in case you become disabled. But those will oftentimes only get you so far. Sometimes institutions won't honor them. And so that's where the trust really comes into play. You don't have to worry about going through what we call living probate. Having your family go down to the court and ask to be appointed your guardian or your conservator in case you become incapacitated, which is often a quite lengthy and costly process. Well, the trust avoids that because it will allow your successor trustee to step into your shoes if you ever become incapacitated. So that incapacity planning is the fifth advantage to having a revocable living trust over a last will and testament. Well, we've talked about, 5 of the benefits to having a revocable living trust, and oftentimes when I explain the benefits to a revocable living trust, they will often say something like this. Well, if those are the benefits of a trust over a will, why doesn't everybody have a trust? Well, trusts do come with one disadvantage. So let's talk about that disadvantage. The disadvantage to having a trust over a will really just comes down to cost. It costs more to set up a trust over a will. Wills are relatively simple to set up. All of the work is done on the back end by your family after you've passed away. Well, trusts are sort of the opposite. You do all the work on the front end by taking your assets and retitling them and putting them into your trust. That way they don't get frozen when you pass away. So you avoid having to go through probate. But all the work's done on the front end so that it's super easy on the back end whenever you pass away. It's easier on your family. So the benefit to the will is that it's cheaper. The disadvantage, and really probably the only disadvantage to the trust, is that it costs more than setting up a will. But again, all the costs for the will are in the back end. You do the work on the front end with the trust so that it's easier on your family when you pass away. So I often describe the differences between wills and trust to my clients as like the difference between a bicycle and a car. Now they are both going to get you where you want to go. One just takes longer and the other is more expensive. And so those are essentially the differences between a will and a trust, just like the difference between a bicycle and a car. So those are the benefits to the Revocable Living Trust over having a last will and testament, and the one disadvantage to creating a trust over a last will and testament. Now, that's all we have to talk about today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Again, we put new videos out every Tuesday and Friday, and make sure that you like the video. It always helps.